Namaskar.
Namaste.
Namaskara.
Vanakkam.
Shamadi.
Assalamualaikum.
Sat Shri Akal.
Meek Andriki Vandanamal.
जय स्वामीनारायण.
जय श्री कृष्ण.
विजनेंद्रा.
हमारे इस्मानी भाई बंधु को बोलते याली मदद.
मोनाली मदद बोलते सारे फीचे मन बोलेंगे निशा बोला बरजान हम आगे हैं आपके प्यारे महिमा के द्वारे मैं फालतू बाबा. Cheers.
And of course myself Alturani. Cheers. But I'm already done with my coffee.
Very good. Well, फालतू रानी doesn't matter. Cheers बोल सकते हैं, हवा पी सकते हो.
हवा पी सकती हूँ.
Exactly. Father, it's so nice. Actually, we're both same height now, no?
Right? Really?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Because I'm having a shorter chair.
Oh! You're so evil.
There's no mystery there,
You're
Baljan.
so evil, Altu.
There's no mystery there, Baljan. But anyway, the point is, Faltari, today is Mystery Mondays, okay? It's kind of I wouldn't say a continuation of what happened last time. So first of all, I'm wondering what's this, people joining the very first time never knew what exactly we're going to be doing. Today is called the Mystery Mondays. We actually try to, showcase some of the mysteries which we have to keep thinking about, right? We don't know what has happened, why it's happening, so what is the reason behind all the stuff we don't know.
Right.
But we just know that this is a mystery nevertheless.
Right. Exactly, Manajan. Last week we talked about something which was extremely, that has boggled the minds of several people who follow Indian history. And of course, where a lot of us, I think they were, if I were to misspell mystery and history. So I would say the way India has taught in our books with regard to the death of the mysterious death of Lal Bahadur Shastri Saab, right? He was supposedly the in his case, at least we knew that we got the body back, right? That it was him, that he was, we talked about how after his trip to Tashkent over there, he came back dead, right? With bluish marks on his body. There were cuts on his body which could not be explained. There's a lot of those things that happened, remember? In his case, there was obviously we had the tangible remains that came back to us, although that still remains a mystery.
Yeah, because
right?
that
So what happened to him? Why?
Whatever a head of a nation was found dead.
Yeah, it's assassinated, obviously, not due to natural causes.
But
so what I was trying to say was, they said it was heart failure, na, Altu Baba. So I was sorry, I forgot what I was trying to lead to. I was trying to say it should be Mystory, mystery. Because they misled the Indian population. They misled a lot of us to believe that he died of a heart failure, which he clearly did not, right? That was proven according to the reports.
Yeah, we don't know because reports did not happen. They did not do autopsy of the whole of the thing. There was no forensic research going on, forensic investigation to what exactly happened. But we just know, based on the stories around it, it kind of sounds like as though it's a page out of a John Grisham kind of a novel or Tom Clancy's novel, right?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it's all about the espionage. We also got the fact that we also were preview. We actually read a few statements from one of the ex-CIA agents who were there at that time.
Yeah,
right? Who released all the documents, close to 55,000 documents was released by him. Of course, at a senior age when he felt nothing could touch him, right? So whatever happened, right? We don't know. Well, the point is that doesn't stop there. Free India actually has a couple of other mysteries also, right? Free India, I'm talking about post-independence.
Yeah.
First thing which we have, rather not first thing. First we talked about was the Free India post-independence major whatever thing. Lal Bahadur Shastri is one thing, of course.
Right.
Now let's go pre-independence.
Right.
Now this is something which is very, very curious because we talked about intertwined storyline. Right. Again, everything is based on what we have read and what we can readily available for you on the internet. No, don't ChatGPT. This doesn't actually work. Right. ChatGPT will tell you insufficient data.
Yeah.
Because it'll say, I'll tell you, because we did try it.
Yeah, exactly.
We try to see if ChatGPT can do investigative reporting. It doesn't. It can't. It's not allowed to actually get into all those documents, right? You could actually probably find more if you just research and read through all the articles on the internet, right?
Right.
So now, coming back to the point of what post-independence ka mystery to Lal Bahadur Shastri the hi, right? Now let's go back. Pre-independence mein ek mystery hua tha. That's what we're talking about here, which is the suspicious case of Subhash.
That is right, Banjan. Tonight, we will talk about the Tashkent man, who supposedly was the person that would have changed the direction of the Indian democracy, according to Lal Bahadur Shastri himself. When he had claimed that he was going to be meeting this Tashkent man, right? And that he would, and soon it was going to be a very interesting meeting, because soon the direction of Indian politics would change, is what Shastriji is claimed to have said to his son Sunil Shastri, right, at that particular point in time. But then he came back a dead man, basically, and nobody ever knew who this Tashkent man was, because if this Tashkent man was indeed Subhash Chandra Bose, who was believed to have died 20 years prior to that in a plane crash. So, what was it that was surrounding the death of this Shastriji? And could it be true that the Tashkent man was actually Subhash Chandra Bose? Well, we don't have all the answers. What we do is we try to get you to think about it and see if this is something that we want to know. Why do we want to know this, right? And why do we want to know? Because we want to get history right. We learn from, history is like Altubaba, and when we speak, he always famously says history is an account of whoever is writing it or whoever is telling it, which is so true, because all the documented accounts that we have thus far about anything, in fact, agar aap India mein koi एक स्टैंडर्डाइज टेक्स्ट बुक नहीं होता है, लाइक ICSE में पढ़ो तो अलग किस्म के टेक्स्ट बुक्स हैं, एंड there's different authors for each one, and then each of those, like the colonization of India and everything was highly underplayed by who? By the British, who possibly had a hand in writing the textbooks for a lot of the Catholic schools.
Very true. They actually, and also they were the people, most of the instructions were, whether you like it, you might say, colonial matlab kya hai? Not only British, by the way, of course, British was involved, but if you notice, the NATO came in afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Many of them could not digest the fact that India was becoming a superpower, right? At that time itself, right? So now let's go back to the time India was still not free, right?
Right.
And yes, there was one person who everybody looked up to, and I don't know. Do you want to go into the little bit of beginnings of Subhash Chandra Bose, Falrani?
Yes, Altubaba, if you could get us started on that just a little bit and tell us about his birth and life, just a few minutes. I just need to take a quick break. I'll be right back.
Well, Balajan, I'll tell you what, she put me on the spot right now when she's gone. The point is, Subhash Chandra Bose, more than anything else, today's show is not actually an expose about Subhash Chandra Bose. It's not about history of Subhash Chandra Bose. Request to go and read up about him. But of course, we do know that, he was Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, one of the most prominent leaders of our Indian independence movement. Yes, if you guys are wondering, how does it look? Does it look like what's there on the photograph there? Well, here's a nice photograph of Subhash Chandra Bose for you guys to take a look at. It'll tell you a lot about, the typical Neta's topi and the glasses was a signature for him, if you notice. And we actually are going to talk a little bit about him right now for you guys. It's actually the fact that he was leader of the Indian independence movement, and he was supposedly a very charismatic and inspiring figure. He had a very though he was actually one of good friends of the freedom fighter movement. He was a freedom fighter himself, and his ideologies were a little bit different compared to the non-violent nature of Gandhiji. He, of course, was a very dear friend of Gandhiji. Gandhiji used to refer to him as, in a fond way, as a patriot of India. And that's what he used to always call him as. Now, the thing is, Subhash Chandra Bose also, they see him in not only in India is he known as Netaji, but also he has had a very huge impact on some of the movements in the Eastern Asia. And he was a person who was very instrumental in Singapore, the movement in Singapore, and initiating that the movement in Singapore, and also in Malaysia, actually. And of course, we talked about him being a charismatic leader. He was a person who led the Indian National Army for a campaign against the British rule itself. So the something was he was a nationalist leader, and he was a major figure in the Indian independence movement, as we all know about. He was born in Calcutta. Sorry, he was born in Cuttack, not Calcutta. He was born in Cuttack, Odisha. So he's one of the proud people from Odisha, I should say. All the way in 1897, he was his birth anniversary. And he studied in the University of Calcutta for sure. So he was actually born in Cuttack, Odisha, but studied in Calcutta University. He joined the Indian Civil Service in 1920. And pretty much in like 1 year, 1920, civil services in India was still under the rule of the Britishers, if you remember right. And he resigned from the post in like less than a year. And why he did resign is a question you should always ask yourself, because he resigned to join the Indian National Congress. So he decided to actually pursue, of course, he was there in civil services. That's a very good move. He learned about civil services and then resigned in like less than a year and joined the Indian National Congress and was elected the president of the Indian National Congress by in 1938 and 39. He was a radical nationalist who believed in complete independence from British rule. He broke with the Congress in 1939. So if you notice, he joined the Congress in 1938 but broke away from the ideologies in 1939 over the issue of whether to cooperate with the British during the World War II. So now why I'm giving this history right now is because a lot of the mystery surrounding his disappearance or his death is kind of linked to his life history, I should say. So he was a radical. Okay, let me rephrase that, because we are saying this based on what's reported about him. He had his own ideologies about the movement. He was not a person who would cooperate with the British, and he wanted to have full and complete independence from the British Raj at that time. So he wanted full, complete independence from that. And of course, though he joined the Indian National Congress, which was a party headed by Jawaharlal Nehru, and also had the blessings of Gandhiji, right? He joined them as early as 1921, but in a few years, 15 years, he actually became the president of Indian National Congress and resigned immediately after that because his ideology did not meet with them. Because around that time, 1939, if you know historically, if you know the Indian history, we used to have the World War II already had started off, and India was supposed to be supporting the British at that time, and a very opportune time for Indian freedom fighters to say that there were a lot of without the Indian manpower, the British could not have fought Germany, and there are a lot of the kind of relationships which Netaji actually built with the Indian National Army, which he actually created. He actually had befriended the German team, and also he had very good ties with the Japanese forces as well. Now the thing was, the fear was he actually might be joining them in those things, but he did break away from the Indian National Congress because of the fact that he didn't want to support the British during the World War II. So he then formed the Forward Bloc, a radical nationalist party, in 1941. He traveled to Germany and Japan, as I told you, where he sought support for the Indian independence movement itself. So basically, India was still not free, and British were actually trying to get Indian soldiers and the Indian army to support the British Army in the war. And parallelly, Netaji has gone ahead and sought the consult of the German and the Japan, because World War II, if you remember, Japan was part of the coalition which fought against the
Western powers. So the Western powers were British, America. America got involved towards the end.
Yeah.
And that's when the war kind of ended, after America came and bombed Hiroshima, Nagasaki.
Yeah,
right?
but the thing is, he raised an army of Indian soldiers and called it the National Army, which fought against the British in Southeast Asia. If you guys didn't know about that, Indian National Army actually fought against the British in the World War II. There's something which is notable. Now, why am I talking about all these things? Because in 5 years, not even less than 5 years, he has moved out of Congress 1939, right? He left the Congress because he felt that ideology did not match. His army, he created an army of his own. By the way, there have been accounts of where many people have cited him as a supreme leader. Now, can I tell you, do you remember, Faltani, who else used to be called supreme leader?
you.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
So why did they call him supreme leader? We don't know. Was it the propaganda to demonize him or whatever it is? We don't know, right? But he was a charismatic leader for sure because he commanded the respect from people. Though he was from India, he had an army, right? What was he? He was not a whole entity himself, right?
Right.
So the thing is, he was so charismatic and so much of a thing, but he actually was able to rally a force. And thanks to him, Indian Army actually got the International Army got the recognition it deserved, right? But in 1945, Bose disappeared. As we just now talked about a few minutes ago, his death is still a mystery.
Well, there are many theories to it,
Yeah.
right? Many kinds of theories.
But let me
that-
share, because I'm in the flow, let me talk about the official story, which people
Okay.
actually believed, or people wanted to be, people were told about it.
Right.
The official story is that Bose died in a plane crash.
Uh-huh.
Where? In Taiwan. Okay? And it was somewhere on August 18th, right? However, like how Falcon is now said a few minutes ago, there are many inconsistencies in the official account itself. So the official story was that he died in a plane crash. The mystery is this now. Now we're going to come to the part of the mystery where Falcon will talk a little more about that. But I just want to tell you that the official story was that on August 18th, 1945, this is pre-independence. We got an independence on August 15th, 1947. 1945, suddenly we hear the news that Bose had disappeared. There's no evidence, or there are a lot of inconsistencies in the official account of what happened. There was no physical evidence to support any of those, maybe the crash or the body. Okay? Some people believe, like before I just give a little bit of prelude to what Falcon is going to share, some people believe that Bose actually escaped the crash and fled to the Soviet Union. At that time, Russia was called Soviet Union, USSR, right? And that he eventually died in China. But others also believe, the other stories are there, where he says he came back to India.
Right.
Now, the thing is, if you notice, even then, at that point in time, it was still a mystery. If you notice, we talked about this last week in our Mystery Mondays, where we talked about the fact that there was somebody, quote, somebody, Labir Shastri was supposed to meet in Tashkent, right? The Tashkent man.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I'll leave it at that, because now further I want to give it to Falconi so she can talk more about the conspiracy theories associated with this. Okay, and then of course, if you want to read more about it, we will probably give you. There'll be a blog on our website. Go check it out, mediamemo.com. We'll have a small blog talking about some connecting books and some kind of articles. You can read more about this.
Yeah.
But Falconi, we talked about this official account. Official account say alag kya tha?
काफी सारे theories हैं Manojan, and that hence the title of our show today, The Suspicious Case of Subhash, because it's not only the Indian government. This man, I know that Altu shared with you that how powerful he was. He was elected as, initially he and Jawaharlal Nehru became joint secretaries of Indian National Congress. They both were, if Subhash Chandra Bose had stayed on in India, and B.R. Ambedkar himself says Indian freedom was made possible because of the work of Subhash Chandra Bose and the Indian National Army, and not necessarily just the Indian National Congress at that particular point in time. So he was a force to reckon with. In fact, if you actually go back and read his life history, Manajan, आप देखोगे कि कितने बार उनको incarcerate किया गया. And on, like he would come out of prison, he would again go back in prison. They would actually arrest him on some grounds or the other because he was feeding these liberalization movements or whatever, and was surreptitiously, yani ki jo without the knowledge of the Indian National Congress, so to speak, because Indian National Congress was very pro. I mean, he joined by joining the non-cooperation movement, right? So within in INC itself, he already had many people that he was butting heads with. But he was young and he was charismatic, and he believed fervently that India should be able to reliably fight the battle on her own, and he didn't believe that it was possible only through non-cooperation means. When he said non-cooperation, he said we have to have a confrontational approach as well. We have to hold their feet to the fire. तो उनको अरेस्ट किया गया, and then he was I think he was sent off to London because he came down with a very bad case of, this is in 1930s something, and he was sent off to London because he got TB. And then he came back, and again they arrested him. 1940.
Wow. Uh-huh.
They put him back in prison.
But this is again after he dissociated with the Indian National Congress in 39. So until then, he actually worked. He was elected the president of Indian National Congress in 1938. He served for almost less than a year, actually.
Right.
And all this happened, by the way, Faltoni, what's probably you didn't know, there was a case of his poisoning. Yeah. Many people don't know about it. There's one particular case where they talked about the fact that he probably was poisoned around that time, where he was hospitalized, which people claim it was the
TB, is it?
TB.
Yeah. So, unko kya hua Banajan? In fact, he was so popular amongst the common man. In fact, his brother was a very influential man, Sarat Chandra Bose, right, in Calcutta, and he would actually, the people would say that he was also funding a portion of whatever Subhash Chandra Bose was doing. So, in fact, he became the CEO of the Calcutta Municipal Corporation, apparently. And then again he was arrested because they found out that he was doing some funding some क्या कहते हैं revolutionary movement somewhere else, and they suspected that he had a secret connection. So 1927 में 1924 में उसको फिर से ban कर दिया and अंदर कर दिया. So then actually he was not even under a fight. What he was done meaning he wasn't even arrested. What they did was they moved him to Myanmar. They deported him to Burma.
Yeah, that didn't stop him at all.
Yeah.
Any which way. If anything, actually boosted him more.
But क्या हुआ ये जनाब जब 1927 में वापस आए, because he in Indian National Congress में, the reason we're telling you the history Banjan is because it's important to know who are his shaping, why is this so what kind of could have possibly contributed to his disappearance.
Okay, now
we won't say death, right? We'll say disappearance.
Okay, now the thing is, why I'm showing you the photograph right now of him being carried, because there is some photographic evidence to this also, right? 38 he joined Indian National Congress. Now this is not
38, no.
1930 he became president of the Indian National Congress along with Nehru, right? So the thing is, that time, if the photograph what you see there right now is him being carried to a meeting, because they said it's something to do with TB, but actually the suspicion was that there was some poisoning involved in that.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's terrible. So, but then you know what? He was associated, actually when he joined Mahatma Gandhi for the freedom movement, right? तो 27 साल के थे या कुछ ऐसा. He was very young.
Very young, yeah.
So he actually, what happened in 19... So he was sent to be mentored by Chittaranjan Das, who was the, supposed... the person who... There was a left-wing... That himself in the Congress, they had a left-wing faction and a right-wing faction. And the left-wing faction was more of the militant group, and then there was the Gandhian right-wing faction, which was purely Mahatma Gandhi's principles of non-violence and ahimsa and all that stuff, which he clearly was not completely on board with, because of how many times he was incarcerated and taken out. And it's not just his personal struggles, but he also started seeing a lot of the stuff that was happening around him, right? So इन्होंने क्या किया, when he was Burma में इनको जब exile कर दिया गया, right? He came back in 1927. Chittaranjan Das had died. That time Chittaranjan Das was the mayor of Calcutta. And he was the CEO, right? He had been appointed CEO of the municipal corporation, but then he was deported to Burma. And then he came back and he had to the whole place was in a disarray, apparently, when he came back. And then what they did was he tried to join the civil disobedience movement with Mahatma Gandhi. He tried to. The operative words being tried to, because he was already in detention for associations with underground militant groups.
Yeah, let's tell you one thing. This guy, he's still a young guy, because 1889 was his birth.
1900.
Yeah, 1889 was his birth anniversary, right?
I thought it was 1900, Altavava.
Okay, 1900, fine. I might be wrong.
Yeah.
So 1900, so he's just only what, 30 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Barely, if that. So, ye janab, what he did at that particular point in time was they actually vocal support for Mahatma Gandhi had started increasing in the Indian National Congress, and Subhash Chandra Bose again was arrested. He was rearrested and released based on his connection with this group called the Underground, the Bengal Volunteers. That's what they were called, which was actually a fighting faction of the Indian freedom movement. So this was the time that he curiously contracted tuberculosis. And just so that he could, based on humanitarian grounds, they sent him so that he can get medical attention. He was released, and at that time it was supposed to be an enforced exile for him, and still ill at that particular point in time, which Altu says there is a theory that he was poisoned. Us time pe unhone ye likha the Indian struggle from 1920 to 1934. He wrote a paper, and he pleaded India's cause with European leaders. He said, why India deserves freedom, and he did that, but nobody knows if that was what persuaded them. There was it was a culmination of a lot of angst from India to the British, right? Because we were done with the colonial rule, right? So he actually then returned from Europe in 1936, but again he was arrested, and then he was released after a year. Meanwhile, he was becoming more and more critical of Mahatma Gandhi's approach, and also his conservative economics. Because, see, now it's the connection that you will see between Subhash Chandra Bose and Lal Bahadur Shastri. Subhash Chandra Bose believed in broad industrialization of India. He believed that we need to associate with Western powers like Germany. That was one of his because he felt Germany was at the and they were at the helm of a lot of industrialization. Even today, Germany is at the level of knowledge and the level of expertise that Germany has. Across the world, a lot of countries do not. The amount of industrialization, and he believed that there should be a broad industrialization of India, whereas Mahatma Gandhi was more about the self industry, right? Cottage industry, getting people to work from home, and that kind of thing, right? Like where he believed in that. He did not want any reliance on any Western powers. Both were right in their own ways, because if you actually look at it from the Gandhian perspective, it's the fact that whatever, right? But we are not here to debate that. So there was this whole big faction that was emerging, and people were kind of there was an election that was held, right, for Indian National Congress, and what happened was Subhash Chandra Bose actually got elected by popular vote as the president of the Indian National Congress.
Yeah.
Right? He got because so many people supported him. And he beat a Gandhian representative. But that was a scary part for a lot of the pro-Gandhian people. So now, why are we telling you this? Did this have any connection with his disappearance?
We don't know.
We don't know.
Why should we know? No, just kidding.
Yeah. But that is when, like Altu said, in 1939, what happened was he won this particular re-election, and he felt that he was not receiving the due support from Gandhi. I mean, Gandhi was the face of Indian freedom struggle, right? So he didn't receive the due support, so he resigned from that particular position. And at that point, they arrested him again in 1940. And his refusal at that time, people say that this was his determination. He started fasting to death. He didn't want to remain in prison. So the British released him, even though they closely watched his lesson. That is when he became the master of disguise. And the man slipped away. Nobody knew what exactly happened to him. It wasn't officially that he was officially commissioned as part of the Indian National Army, कि उनको भेज दिया गया, or he fought for the British, or he fought for the Germans, or he fought for the Japanese. Nobody knows. But what did this man actually do? Well, there is a lot of theories that we came across. One of the theories is that he escaped the crash that supposedly happened. This is the death theory, right? That he escaped it and he went to Soviet Union.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So now the chronologically, if you're going to follow through us, we don't want to jump to 1944.
Yeah.
1945, we're not going to jump there because where he became famous. Now, Faltani talked about the fact that he already had a audience in international level in 1930, mid-30s.
Right.
Mid-1930s, I'm sorry.
Correct.
So 1938, he rose to a level of president of National Congress, which was recognizable already all over the world, actually. Because India's independence was made public by him. There's one more place where he went and really, punctured the hornet's nest and he came.
Correct.
Now,
So
this is 1942, mein.
was it like he escaped from India in around 1940, right?
Correct,
And
but-
then he went through Kabul.
Correct. So he went to a global meeting in Germany.
Oh, okay. So was
here-
that the one he went through Kabul and he went through Moscow and
Correct.
reached Germany?
The best part is there is a video of that. I want to play the video for Abundance if you're okay with Faltani.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
So this particular video will talk about his thing. So he was so there's a particular lot of there are many these I don't know what to call them. A lot of stories about the encounter of Netaji and Hitler. So I believe this one's a very interesting story, Faltani. Have you heard of it?
What is it?
When he went to Germany to meet Hitler, so he was actually led into a room, and somebody came in, and so they said, okay, the Führer is going to come be with you for some time. And they walked away. Somebody walks in and they said, hello, how are we doing? To Subhash Chandra Bose. He said, good, but can I meet Hitler? So the person was Hitler, came into a hello to him. He said, I would like to meet the Führer, please. I'd like to meet Führer himself. So the person said, what? And walked away. And then again, one more person came in and said, hey, how are we doing? So the thing is, Netaji is supposed to be such a great judge of character, judge of people's personality and everything. So after 3 attempts, one more person, a lookalike of Hitler, came in. And how did you know the other 2 people were not me? Then he said, no, I know, because if it were to be you, you would not come reach out your hand and say hello to me.
Why?
Yeah. Why? Because he was Führer, right? So the imposters were not able to, they were, that Hitler supposed that this is a story, a theory or story which is running around everywhere. I never read any account of it in his book or whatever, but somewhere is there, where he supposedly says that he was able to recognize the actual Hitler because actually the Führer would never come reach out his hand and say hello to him. Right?
Yeah.
So
because he maintained that aura of being fearsome and being somebody who is authoritarian.
The respect for Netaji in Hitler was that he could see through my disguises. So partly that's the thing. But anyway, here's the thing. So he apparently was also fluent in multiple languages. He was very good in German also. So here is a speech I have for our bandhus to take a look at. Right, this is actually available for you guys on YouTube. It's not something special, right? And if at all you want to get the link for this thing, I'll be happy to send it across to you. Just email us. I can send you the link for this particular speech. This actually happened in Berlin, 1942.
Yes.
Netaji reached Berlin and addressed the Indian independence meeting in German.
Ihren unsterblichen Glauben an die Freiheit und ihren unerschütterlichen Entschluss, den Kampf bis zum Siege weiterzuführen, zu bekräftigen. In diesem Kampf, der für Indien ein Kampf Sein oder Nichtsein ist, kann es nur einen Ausgang geben, unseren gemeinsamen Ziel. Lang leben die drei Machtmächte und ihre Verbündeten. Lang leben das zwei Indien.
So this was actually one of the public appearances where you can see he really brought the attention. This actually was a meeting on Indian independence itself. So whether the nation, the whole world is going to support the independence thing. So he was very instrumental in gaining the support.
In gaining a world, I mean, first of all, for support to be there should be awareness, right? Ki kya ho raha hai, what exactly is happening. In fact, even when, if you have actually watched, what do you call the Gandhi movie, right? Even in that, you can actually see it's a very insignificant scene and inconsequential role of Martin Sheen, where he plays the role of an American reporter. Gandhi ji, Dandi March jo hua, Gandhi ji almost died, right? So many people were beaten. It was a peaceful movement. All they said was, we'll make our own salt. Remember that? So even that would not have, the backlash wouldn't have happened as much had it not been for an American reporter calling and saying, we are going to run this story and we're going to write. He took pictures and he posted it all across the world that this was enough. This was actually brutal colonization. It's not like you're treating these people as human beings. You're actually treating them worse than animals. Right? That is how the whole backlash happened against the British Empire. Even with Mahatma Gandhi, when they kept getting beaten up and they didn't fight back. And people died during that time, if you remember. So this, while that was happening there, on this end, we needed people like, I think, Subhash Chandra Bose, who was apparently he was a very learned guy, Altu Baba. He actually spoke, and he used to do broadcasts. You talked about Germany, Ponche, na? So in Germany, he actually had, there was a newly created special bureau for India, which was guided by Adam von Trotz-Solz, apparently.
Okay.
And what this was is basically the special bureau for India did broadcasts. Worldwide broadcasts about, it was a German sponsored, by the way, Führer, who, it was supposedly their sponsored Azad Hind Radio, beginning in January of 1942. And wahan pe broadcasts used to happen in, he actually spoke in English, in Hindi, in Bengali, in Tamil, Telugu, Gujarati and Pashto.
Wow.
So multiple languages he was able to speak, and he was able to get, the broadcast and the word out. And a little more than a year, like 1942 में ये हुआ, 1943 में after जब Japan ने Southeast Asia को invade किया ना, which was like Taiwan, right? At that time, Taiwan was also under the occupation of Japan. So Bose apparently left Germany. He went on German and Japanese submarines, and also by plane, and finally arrived in 1943 in Tokyo. And on 4th of July, ironically, he assumed leadership of something called the Indian Independence Movement in East Asia, and proceeded with Japanese aid and influence to form a trained army of 40,000 troops. Right, 40,000 troops in the Japanese occupied Southeast Asia. Okay, and on October 21st in 1943, he actually proclaimed, this might have been a thorn in a lot of the Indian National Congress leaders' sides, because what he proclaimed was the establishment of a provisional independent Indian government, which had its own Indian National Army in Southeast Asia. He proclaimed this, and he called it the Azad Hind Fauj, alongside Japanese troops, and he advanced to Rangoon. That was probably his backyard, because he knew, right, in Burma he was pretty familiar with that territory. And then he went overland to India, reaching the Indian soil on March 18, 1944. Iske baad kya hua? He moved into Kohima and the plains of Imphal. In a stubborn battle, the mixed Indian and Japanese forces, who lacked Japanese, this is what is believed, that they didn't get the Japanese air support that they needed, so they had to retreat, is what they say. And of course, they say that the Indian National Army, succeeded in maintaining its identity as just a liberation force. That they were not really identified as the force that was fighting against the Western powers.
Once again, trying to invalidate their efforts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But what in turn happened, the other theory that came around it, well, then they said that he was found in a he was found in Taiwan. His remains were found or whatever. No, not remains. Sorry, his one of the theories is that of a plane carrying Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and a Japanese general or something, and a pilot, and that plane crashed. And then Subhash Chandra Bose was in a Taiwanese hospital. That's what they believe.
Wait. Here's the thing. The interesting part of that story, I like it because you know why? The plane was commissioned to carry a Japanese general and the pilot.
Correct.
On the crash site, only 2 people died on the spot.
Right.
They found the remains of the pilot and the general.
Yeah.
What happened to Bose Saab? Now, part of the claim which Faltran is talking about.
So,
that he suffered burns.
Yeah, and apparently he succumbed to burn injuries, is what they say.
In a hospital.
In a hospital.
Not on site.
Correct. In a hospital. And that hospital, the burn injuries, and then whatever his so-called remains are supposed to have been buried in Japan. In a crematorium in Japan, where physically only one person has been buried there.
Correct.
We will talk a little bit more about that.
We will. But what you see on screen right now, Faldrani, is to what you had talked about, the fact that he was a master of disguise.
Yeah.
The Indian government, Modi government, actually declassified some files in 2015. Right? Now, somebody actually built a collage of all these things. Just look at how it's the same person in all the photographs.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and these are the recorded evidence of him, how he has been able to do it.
Right.
Hence, he was called the master of disguise. He was like a very handsome, like, Aditi is saying on one thing, he was also a very handsome guy. Check out his profile. Yes, he was a very handsome individual. Young, energetic, charismatic for sure. You can see the charisma on his face right now, right?
Right.
He's like, no nonsense kind of face. Hey, I want this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's just to show that. And now, I think, we established the fact that there was a particular plane crash which they associated that with him.
Yeah.
Right? But they weren't able to find the body.
One of the theories is that he faked his own death because he wanted to continue the struggle without having the pressure of being hunted by the British. So he faked his death, is one theory.
Yeah.
The other theory is that he continued hiding in India or some other country, and that is based on the fact that there have been several reported sightings of him in India and other countries after the alleged plane crash.
Yeah.
However, none of these sightings technically have been verified or anything, and there is no concrete evidence to support the claim that he actually survived the crash.
Okay.
But now is the ringer, right, that you're going to throw something in.
I was not going to throw anything. I was going to show the evidence of the report. I don't know if we can actually share that with our bandhus.
Yeah, I think we should. Because
it's available online. It's been declassified anyways. It's not that we're going to share something different, right?
Right.
It actually is the account of the post-mortem, I suppose, right? Was it the crematory records? Is that what it is which we are going to provide them, Faltrani?
The one that you're showing up there. This, you have to give them some background with regard to that.
Please do.
Now, it is believed that he died in Taiwan, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Recently, the Taiwanese government, actually declassified a report which included details of this particular plane crash or regarding Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's death, because they claimed that he died in a plane crash in Taiwan, which is now Taiwan, but at that time it was Japanese occupied, right? So this particular thing says, there were, by the way, ye investigation aaj bhi jari hai.
Yeah.
So there were 2 commissions bithai gayi. One was one committee was something called the Shah Nawaz Committee. Okay, the Shah Nawaz Committee was basically Shah Nawaz was Subhash Chandra Bose's right-hand man one time, and then he was offered a position in the Indian National Congress, and apparently he was immediately delegated as the person for the Shah Nawaz to investigate the death of Subhash Chandra Bose, and he was the one who said he actually basically under his leadership it was determined that he died. that he's no longer there. But the other commission was the Justice Khosla Commission and the Justice Mukherjee Commission.
Khosla was 1970, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, 1970. And even today, research jari hai. In fact, as recently as January 23rd, 2023, Indian journalists have actually been researching this and have been trying to find out. As soon as this Taiwanese report was declassified, the author of this particular article, and we will share the name of that gentleman, actually went to Taiwan and went through all the archives and tried to find information. So here is what happened. Apparently, it was called the Taihoku air crash where this happened, but none of these probes have either presented any conclusive or substantial documentary evidence confirming the end of Subhash Chandra Bose. Or neither have they produced any kind of concrete information that can rule out any possibility of his death on the said date. August 18th, 1945 को उन्होंने claim किया ये plane crash में मर गए. लेकिन उसका कोई, there is nothing, no other documentary evidence. However, as soon as some of the this paper was declassified, it's a 14-page document, the Taiwanese document that was declassified. Even though there is no mention or reference, even though there was information in the Taiwanese files, right? None of the commissions that was started by India, right? Shahnawaz committee mein bhi nahi hai. Neither is there anything in the Khosla or the Mukherjee commissions. There's no mention of this particular probe, the Taiwanese probe. The Taiwanese actually tried to find out what happened. Okay. When it actually happened, right? So there exists apparently a Taiwan police probe file on the crash that clearly and categorically ruled out finding any evidence related to the, not just Subhash Chandra Bose, Indian National Army itself.
Correct, because it talks about two individuals.
Yeah.
Right, and that's all they have there, nothing else. And it says they were part of the army, and one is related to a Tokyo, one is from Taipei.
Right. So the document accessed without any hassle by a master's degree student of Taipei's National Taiwan University. His name was Saurav Dangar. And from the Taiwan National Archives has been catalogued in traditional Chinese. It has been catalogued, okay, as something in traditional Chinese, which literally means failed to prove that Indian national leader Bose died in Taiwan during World War II. Or if you took another, it's up to interpretation, right? The other interpretation of that is cannot be certified that during Second World War, the leader of India, Bose, died in Taiwan. So it's clearly mentioned in the Taiwanese probe.
And that's something which we just showed you some transcripts of it. It was actually a Taiwanese probe. They translated it into English.
Yeah.
We showed that to you right now. And this only makes it more mysterious as to, क्या हुआ रहेगा.
हाँ,
right?
तो हमारे इंडियंस तो है ही, लेकिन यहाँ पे जो हमारे ताइवान गवर्नमेंट में apparently ये मालूम है probe कब किया गया. I think it's earlier than when the Indians actually did the probe.
Correct.
So 1956 में June 1956 से August 30th 1956 तक Taiwanese police ने इसको research किया. They tried to investigate the matter and came close on the heel of the Indian government appointing the Shahnawaz committee, जिन्होंने बंद कर दिया सब कुछ.
Yeah. So once they came, I think Netaji, I think we had Nehru in power at the time.
Yes.
At that time.
Yeah.
So it was shut down, literally shut down immediately.
Correct.
Now, why? What was the purpose behind it? We still don't know, because we at least have a kind of a belief from last week's probe or research which we did, that somewhere until 1964 there was involvement of a gentleman,
Yes,
who was very instrumental and suspiciously in a photograph,
yeah,
with Netaji in the
with Shastriji.
with Shastriji who look like Netaji in the Tashkent photograph, Tashkent signing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, did he meet him? We don't know. What happened? We don't know, right? It's a mysterious thing which we
Well,
have talked about.
there is theories to that too,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
will come to that
Please,
too.
let's get to that.
Bandhajan.
Yeah.
So अभी क्या हुआ है नेता जी का ये हुआ कि the Taiwanese government said they actually researched in Japan, Thailand, Vietnam, and everywhere else. They actually, and even Shahnawaz committee apparently searched in Thailand, Vietnam, Japan, India, but they didn't go to Taiwan, where actually the Taihoku
Incident
crash
happened.
happened.
Yeah. Huh.
So Shahnawaz committee is not even researched over there, and nowhere did they mention anything about this air crash. So अभी subsequent जो इनके death commissions हुए, death probe का जो commission हुआ, जो खोसला commission था 1970 and Mukherjee in 2005, even they, not even once during, you should mention, right? You should at least
Yeah.
mention that there were probes that happened prior to this. What has happened is they also had not mentioned anything about the probe, and now this particular report, the police report in Taiwan, and the probe that happened was declassified. That was conducted by the regime of the land, where the Indian freedom movements, it was conducted by the Taiwanese regime. Okay, and one of the pages of that particular probe report clearly page 3 specifically clearly states that the authorities have failed to prove Indian National Army leader Subhash Chandra Bose died in Taiwan during World War II.
And this is actually a probe done in China, right? And they're talking
In
about
Taiwan.
Talking about the Taiwanese police. They were not able to conclude that the Indian national leader Subhash Chandra Bose died in Taiwan during the World War II part of it.
Correct. So this is actually, it's all in Chinese, right? So they actually have Chinese language and literature experts who have translated this information from traditional Chinese to the now defunct some characters in that times Chinese was different, and apparently it's been translated into English as per this particular journalist who's been researching this. Now, as translated, page 5 apparently mentions the date of death of the leader of the Indian National Army, Subhash Chandra Bose, was reported in mid-August on the 34th year of the Republic of China, which basically means 1945 AD, when the province was still under Japanese occupation. After checking, there is no document about Bose from printed files of the police department of the Japanese governor's office after transferring. So, what does this mean? Okay, apparently his body was transferred to Japan, and that is where he was cremated or whatever, right? His remains were buried. But if for that to happen, it was still under Japanese occupation. There should have been some official documentation that they wanted this transferred there.
Correct.
There is no,
But there's nothing.
documentation.
There's no file.
Nothing.
Nothing in the name of Bose's death also.
Nothing. And then the next page, page 6, which highlighted, according to a comrade who came to receive the questionnaire during Taiwan's recovery, he said that the Japanese police authorities had destroyed confidential and political files before handing them over. That there is no file of Bose's death, and it seems that it has been destroyed. But according to Japan, there is nothing. They don't have. There's been inquiry into Japan as well that they don't have any information. Why was this destroyed? Now here is the mystery, Manajan. Page 8. Even when the report was declassified, this page was not declassified. The most startling part in this file, which is specifically put in place to uncover the mysterious death of the suspicious death of Subhash Chandra Bose, it has still been kept classified with this particular notice. This page involves personal information. If you want to read it, please click the application on the left to apply, and after the review is approved, you will be notified to read it in the library. Now, the person who wrote this particular article, the author of the article, went to Taiwan, made sure that he left no stone unturned, and tried to access the content, but his efforts relentless efforts were rejected or he was not able to access it with a formal application. It didn't bear any fruit with the authorities, failing to share the original undeciphered page. So they didn't want to share that information. But apparently, he followed up and he tried to find the Japanese crematorium records in Taipei on the fateful day of August 22nd, 1945, on which Netaji was supposedly buried at the crematorium that was later turned into a present public space of Linson Park near Xinjiang North Road. Now, as per this record, the only person who was cremated or buried at the crematorium, and this is according to the crematorium records, okay, was a Japanese national called Ichiro Okura, who had a serial number of 2641. Interestingly, there are many details about Ichiro Okura.
But he was a Japanese part-time army
Yes, and that he died of a heart failure, August 1945. His Japanese residential address is this, blah, 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 everything is there. But still, the intact crematorium records and data collected from all over Taiwan, okay, by its then occupants had no mention anywhere of Netaji's cremation.
No, but the destruction of the documents has not, after transfer of documents, they claim that though the Japanese thing, they destroyed the documents, right? But they transferred this document with the right record dates and everything.
Yeah.
So, who do you believe? Who do you trust?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then each of these crematoriums that are which carry the information about the deceased with a properly sequenced, they in fact have, this is this one that you posted, Altu Baba, the crematorium records, they have personal details and have underlined the fact that the Japanese did not destroy any crematorium records on August 22nd while transferring power to Taiwan following their surrender almost towards the end of World War II. They have not, because it apparently sequentially it is maintained perfectly. Otherwise, you should see a gap in, some pages that were destroyed and it was not there, right? So, the other thing, which is a very curious case, Manjan, it's very suspicious, ki the air crash that supposedly happened, right? Okay, it should be reported somewhere, at least by the Japanese or the Taiwanese, that there was an air crash, right?
They lost a big aeroplane?
Yeah, it was a huge aeroplane. So, a visit to Taiwan's National Central Library apparently, brought out an article about Netaji's death in a Japanese newspaper called the Asahi Shimbun. We all know that. That was a very big newspaper, right? Significantly, a minute flip through the Japanese language pages of this Asia-wide daily couldn't actually fetch any news report or mention about the crash of this Mitsubishi Ki-21 heavy bomber at the airstrip that was then known as Taihoku Hikojo, or the Taihoku Airport, under the Japanese military rule over the then Formosa in those 5 days between the day of the crash and the publication of the death of his publication of the report regarding his death.
Well, ever since the airplanes came in existence, there's something called air traffic control, and this is where the information should be saved. Every time a flight passes through a particular area, they're supposed to keep track of it.
Right.
Like, even now passenger airlines also has been doing that, but then the time aircraft to go here and there is just for safety purposes, know where they landed, because if at all something happened, right?
Yeah.
So there's no record of this particular flight ever going over the particular airstrip also.
And if the crash theory is to be believed, right, Banujan, then suppose technically Taiwan is the epicenter of Netaji's final days.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, none of the commissions, Shahnawaz report ne nahi kiya, Khosla ne nahi kiya, neither did Mukherjee commission, look into Taiwan. If that was the case, right? And then the Taiwan's complex geopolitical existence, we all know, right? They are in this constant flux. That is why Taiwan has American support, because they are constantly at loggerheads with the Republic of China, right? There's been this whole thing with regard to separate customs territory of Taiwan, Penghu, Kinmen, Matsu. There's so many different things. The truth and pieces of evidence related to the reported death of Netaji on its soil has been a constant source of confusion, which is why they declassified one of these reports. Okay, because Taiwan didn't want to have any bad blood with anybody or anything for that matter, so they wanted to make it as clear as possible. In fact, apparently they have invited Indian government, researchers from the Indian government, to come and research and find out if they can find anything to prove that he died on their soil.
Okay, this comes to two things. Now, was it something orchestrated by somebody else? Or was Netaji himself orchestrating it? Because look at these things. Geopolitically, if you look at it, an ideal place where the power struggle is happening between the Western world and the Eastern world.
Yeah.
Right? Friends of Japan. Right? Netaji was friends with Japan. He actually was a person who actually put together an army for them, right?
Yeah.
So, and conveniently, it was actually under the occupation of Japan at that particular time, right? Conveniently easy for, if at all it happened there, he planned this in a very nice way. It's an excellent storyline. I don't know. Have you seen the movie about Subhash Chandra Bose?
No.
With thing. I want to watch the movie because I want to know that she talked about these things. Because after reading about it, I'm getting more interested in watching the movie right now. I want to see how they've interpreted it. Okay, we went through a couple of articles and few. Of course, we could not read through the whole books, but of course, we just saw some of the key things in this thing, and just already bringing questions in our mind, like hey, possibly he was. He probably orchestrated himself because he was a mastermind of all these things, right? So, yeah, we don't know what happened. But again, nevertheless, a mystery, right? And Mystery Mondays, we just thought we should bring this up because it was very closely linked to Lal Bahadur Shastriji's thing as well. Unfortunate what happened with both the cases. But again, we know that the remains of Shastriji did come back, but we still don't understand why it was hushed up. Right? In case of Netaji, we don't know. There's no evidence of his body also being available. But if we want to know, yes, he is being survived by his daughter. And there's a lot of things about him. And
his granddaughter.
And his granddaughter
has actually said that she wants to do a DNA matching. She's called for that, but nothing has happened.
Yeah.
But there is something else which is very interesting about Subhash Chandra Bose. There's another report that came out, Altu Baba. The French did a report. Okay, the French government, there was a very secret French report that was done with regard to his death. Right? So they say he didn't die in the air crash, according to the secret French report. Okay, and in that they clearly say that he basically, this is really, really interesting. Sarat Chandra Bose, Subhash Chandra Bose's beloved brother, refused to accept the plane crash theory. And he supposedly refused to sign the commission reports, the Shahnawaz report, and he refused to sign any of this, claiming that this was a cover-up. And he apparently held even Jawaharlal Nehru responsible for the death or whatever, the disappearance of Subhash Chandra Bose. Okay, this was supposedly done. In 1966, he even claimed, Sarat Chandra Bose claimed, Subhash is going to return. 1966, during the 1960s. He vehemently held on to the fact that this is a cover-up and his brother is going to come back. Okay? It was from that point on, and when did Lal Bahadur Shastri die? 65.
Yeah.
So, one person who completely and 100% backed Sarat Chandra Bose's claim, and who was demanding that Indian National Congress, Jawaharlal Nehru, and even when Jawaharlal Nehru was in power, was Lal Bahadur Shastri, who wanted to know what exactly happened. Because is he dead, is he not dead, whatever. And at one point when he got elected as PM, he had apparently shared with his family members that he was going to, he had actually started talking to somebody, and he was breaking away from Indian National Congress.
Yeah.
So very important thing to remember, Banjan, that he actually said it's going to change the political direction of India, because till then there was only one party. the
Yeah.
Indian National Congress.
Well, there was the Janata Party,
yeah, but
but that was not very strong.
yeah, and it was a minority party, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't the big party. So the big ruling party was the Indian National Congress. And apparently there is, what do you call, there is speculation that our very own Shastriji was going to meet, and he kept saying, I'm going to be meeting this person, and he was very excited about it because he always believed, and he believed supposedly that Subhash Chandra Bose was alive. And he said that this person, and he is secretly working on, rallying forces. So at that time, USSR was very prominent. And he was saying that will change the entire, because Lal Bahadur Shastri also believed in global industrialization.
Yeah.
Okay, across India. He wanted India to, although he was a total Gandhian when it came to philosophy and, in terms of peace and non-violence, and was somebody who held that flag. At the same time, he also was somebody who believed in self-reliance and believed that India needs to industrialize. He was the one who was totally excited about the fact that India was going to become a nuclear power, right? Because Homi Baba. So all these deaths are tied. Right? So think about it, Banjan. If India, with the kind of manpower that India had, when I say manpower, I'm talking about the population size, right? India. And then you have the fact that we have the brains right now. We have the know-how and the technology. You have a totally dynamic leader who has been elected to power, who believes in utilizing all of that. And then you have one person you have a group of people who, led by this one person who has been rallying in international support, which are not necessarily, at that time there were two superpowers. You remember that? There was America and there was Russia.
Cold War times.
So India was in a very strategic position.
Yeah.
Right? So the best thing is to destabilize India. What would you do? You would take out all the leadership there. And that has been attested to in Bob Crowley's report.
Yeah.
Now, we don't know if that is true or not. This is all what is in the papers and what media has written. We don't know.
Even what we're talking about is only papers only.
Yeah.
So converging evidence is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And yes, we're not putting any thought into your mind, but just think about your own self. And yeah, let's bring this out in the open. Like, let's understand the fact that yes, there are people who actually like Subhash Chandra Bose, who I don't know if he's still living around. I don't think so. It's got a long time, but still, there have been people who are the unsung heroes, right?
Yeah.
And nevertheless, somebody as charismatic as Subhash Chandra Bose, it could inspire many people, right?
Yeah, and in fact, there have been many calls to actually declassify the report that India did. They've asked for it. Bengal government finally declassified many files, but we are not sure where the public can access all of that. But then there's also the French report mentioned that it was officially concluded that Netaji didn't die in that crash and his ashes, which are supposed to be at the Renkoji temple in Japan, are not his ashes. There are not really no ashes there.
Yeah. So here's the question would be in terms of whether it was a high conspiracy, where it was attempt for assassination, which was foiled, or whether it was just a decoy so he could uncover other truths. Well, the thing is, we talked about last time as the Indian political scene, how it has been, right? If you look at the most presence of a party has been the National Congress. This is not at all a political comment. We're just talking about this mystery which happened, and unfortunately it happened to leaders of our nations, of a nation. I would say charismatic leaders of a nation. For instance, pre-independence Netaji, post-independence Lal Bahadur Shastri.
Yeah, and did he die? Where did he go to? The disappearance. So this French report, actually, Alto Baba, it says the JBP Moore is the person who is a French reporter who actually reported on this, and he stumbled upon this French secret report on the National Archives of France, saying that he did not die in the plane crash, and apparently in 1947 he was alive and well. The French report, it's a secret French report that was done, referencing Subhash Chandra Bose. And they're saying the Central Forensic Laboratory of Kolkata also refused to share the electropherogram report of the DNA sample of a certain person known as Gumnami Baba. Okay, this Gumnami Baba supposedly was somebody that theories believe, and this is actually true, that after the death of Lal Bahadur Shastri, this person returned to India and he was living as Gumnami Baba in India with several followers. And people are asking for, according to the RTI, the Right to Information report. They have asked for the DNA evidence to be released by the Central Forensic Laboratory, and right now they have refused that, saying that it will affect the integrity and sovereignty of India if you release the information of Gumnami Baba. Okay. These developments further add to the mystery of this man's death, and here is the most interesting thing. Okay, Gumnami Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's family photos, correspondence with Indian National Army leads, correspondence with the Bengal liberation folks, all that information was found, that trove of information was found after Gumnami Baba passed away.
And again, what you're seeing on screen right now is a clipping of Times of India, which actually ran a story about this.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of things, Banujan, and again, mysterious stuff's happened, different things. Of course, as you know, our promise to you is to bring in those mysterious concepts on Mystery Mondays. Do let us know how you like the program today. Are there any other things you want to share with our bandhus today, Faltrani?
I just want to, close that loop and tie up the loose ends of why were we saying Tashkent man and what was the mystery between the two.
Please.
So basically, apparently, Lal Bahadur Shastri had promised. So remember, Subhash Chandra Bose was hiding in Russia, supposedly, according to this, while he was proclaimed dead, so to speak, while he was rallying his forces and stuff. So at that point, apparently, Lal Bahadur Shastri Saab had said that during his trip to Tashkent, he actually promised the Bose family members that he would personally look for evidence of Bose's presence in the Soviet Union. This is again hearsay, anecdotal, right? And then the photo of the Soviet leader and Shastri that was captured believed that the Tashkent man, Bose, was present during this time, during the signing of the Tashkent Declaration. Okay. On 12th December 2015, apparently Times of India divulged that a forensic face mapping report submitted by the British expert, right, Neil Miller, had found a strong resemblance between Netaji and a man photographed in Tashkent. That's how it came out as the Tashkent man, right?
We shared this information in our previous show.
Yeah. So, Shastriji's second daughter, Suman Singh's son, that is, so Shastriji's grandson, Sanjay Nath Singh, apparently revealed Amma first spoke to Babuji but could hardly hear his voice. Then Hari Mama, Shastri's eldest son, exchanged a few words with him. Lastly, they say that basically that they spoke to Shastriji, and he mentioned something about certain opposition leaders whom he had met, and they were planning to hold a black flag demonstration. At that time Shastriji was in power, right? So he had said that some people were planning to hold a black flag demonstration against Shastriji for having returned the Haji Pier Pass. And he clearly told him that he had met somebody and that he was going to bring somebody back who was going to make his countrymen forget about the return of the pass and any criticism about this declaration, because this person will change the face of India.
Yeah.
And he had the power to do it. Now, was this special person that he was referring to Netaji? is the question. Was he planning to present Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose to India on 23rd January 1966? Did he intend to invite Netaji as a chief guest for the Republic Day parade, which is what his intention was? He was going to present this special person on the Republic Day. And was he actually going to abdicate his seat? He actually said this person is a leader and deserves the role that I am playing in this country. And which prime minister would actually say that?
Correct.
You know, would he abdicate his seat in favor of Netaji Subhash? Who else held that kind of reverence in Indian politics at that time, other than Jawaharlal Nehru? How many? And of course, Jinnah was gone, right? Because Jinnah was in Pakistan. So, who else had that kind of pull and power, other than, of course, you know, the Iron Man of India at that time, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel? But you know, everybody knew where Patel was, right? So, and then these questions still remain a mystery. But then the Gumnami Baba continues to prevail in India, and he supposedly had all this information with him. So, was it Gumnami Baba that was Subhash Chandra Bose?
We don't know.
We don't know. So, you know, these are all questions, and this is the big shroud over the death or the disappearance of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. So, we thought it is mysterious enough that we should present it on our show. आपको कैसा लगा? अगर आपको शेयर करना है, कॉल कर सकते हैं या हमारे फेसबुक पे पोस्ट करिए. क्या इसके क्या आंसर्स है कोई पता नहीं कर सकता. You know, it's like literally like a CIA, like
Of
you know,
course,
one of those. I mean, I cannot imagine how hard it must be on the people who were
Going through it.
going through all of it.
Yeah.
So, you know, and to actually, and why are they not releasing? Why are they saying that the releasing of Gumnami Baba's remains for DNA testing, that will threaten the sovereignty of India? Why would they say that? All these things are really, like, you know, a kind of getting you to wonder what actually happened. I wish we get some answers sometime, but our role is to pose the question.
Our role is to question.
Yeah.
Even if it's a question, we give you a response in the question itself.
Correct.
That's our speciality of Faltu Baba, Faltu Rani.
Correct.
So we're going to talk more about such kind of mysteries that are coming up, Mystery Mondays for sure, Balanjan. I hope you enjoyed the presentation as much as we enjoyed it. And we also learned a few things. Why we did research, hopefully you too will learn about it. And if you want to give us some feedback, feel free to go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Radio Dehotties. Like our page, subscribe for it, and also send us information about it. And thank you so much. Meenakshi is saying very well presented and put together. Oh, so sweet of you. Please send us those likes, and if you can, give us stars on Facebook. We're accepting stars over there. Faltu Rani, if you have any going away thoughts, or can we wrap up right now?
I think that's enough of a mystery, Banjan. Rack your brains. I'm sure you'd want to go read. You'd want to find out what was the Taiwanese probe, what was this, what was that.
Hey, हमारा काम बस आपके अंदर एक जागृति जगाना.
हाँ, that's it.
जगा दिया. अभी आप जाके सर्च कीजिएगा, research कीजिएगा, and automatically, probably ChatGPT also eventually know about all these things.
And Bandujan, I just want to share that this is the production of Media Mahima. Media Mahima is actually a non-profit organization जो South Asian diaspora में वो pride about Indian culture and pride about our heritage, क्योंकि we should never forget where we came from, right? वो जागृत करने के लिए, and at the same time also to bring awareness about what we are as a people and what we are as a culture and a community in the larger American community. उसके लिए Media Mahima does this kind of programming. Yes, I mean, there are wonderful organizations that are doing a lot of work where they have, you know, independent, they hold their own cultural festivals, or, you know, they have dance and music and all that. We Media Mahima also does you know, have its own means of upholding preserving our heritage, and that is through funformational programming, that is through entertainment programming, engagement programming. अगर आपको पसंद आया, it's a non-profit organization. We've not done any active fundraising efforts. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है जो हम लोग मतलब जाके बोल रहे हैं कि मीडिया महिमा को डोनेट करो, ये सब नहीं किया है. But for our entertainment programming, if you'd like to, Facebook पे एक option है जहाँ पे you can send stars to the broadcast, and that the stars actually generate very itty bitty little bit of revenue for the organization. If you like it, please share it. If you want to donate to Media Mahima, Alto Baba, how do they donate to Media Mahima?
They can just send us a message on our website, mediamahima.com.
Yeah, just send a message, or you can also send us a check to Media Mahima. You will get a tax donation receipt. You could send a check to the organization, or you could email us on bandhu@mediamahima.com. इसी के साथ हम आपको बोलेंगे that we'll be back tomorrow with something more exciting, Teaser Tuesdays, or we will actually take down Tuesday tomorrow, and we will take down something that we actually saw, and we would really want you to know about it, and we'll present that. तब तक के लिए हमें इजाजत दीजिए. Good night,
शबा खैर.
and a प्यार भरा.